couple of days ago in the Rose Garden, the president made the claim that President Obama had not called the families of fallen soldiers, a claim that's not true. He then roped in his chief of staff, as you mentioned, General Kelly, and said, well, Obama never called General Kelly's son. Here's what the president said about that yesterday during a radio interview.
They asked me that question, and for the most part, to the best of my knowledge, I think I've called every family of somebody that's died. As far as other representatives, I don't know. I mean, you could ask General Kelly, did he get a call from Obama? You could ask other people. I don't know what Obama's policy was.
Soon after that interview, an anonymous White House official told NBC President Obama never called General Kelly when his son, 29-year-old Marine Second Lieutenant Robert Kelly, was killed in combat in 2011. White House visitor logs show that the Obamas hosted General Kelly and his wife at a breakfast for Gold Star families 6 months after their son died. A person familiar with the breakfast said they were seated at First Lady Michelle Obama's table.
And the question is not whether he did or he did not. The question is actually, again, that this president would so flippantly use the death of his chief of staff's son, the tragedy, that family's tragedy, again, as a throwaway line in a fight that he should have not even engaged in. A fight over attacking other presidents. Again, Mark Halperin, these are throwaway lines for fights that he should not engage in. This does him no good. This does the country no good.
This makes me as profoundly sad and upset as I think anything that's happened in the last few months to make these families who have suffered, paid the ultimate sacrifice to make them part of this, whether it's General Kelly or Sergeant Johnson. By criticizing President Obama, by bringing in General Kelly's son. I just think this is a really sad thing. The president bears most of the responsibility for this, for shaping this discussion. I do think, I'll say, not to be critical of this program, but the coverage in the last 12 hours in general, I think trying to create a conflict between Sergeant Johnson's family and the president is a mistake. We don't know exactly what was said on the call.
Yeah, so what does General Kelly do next? How does General Kelly, a man that has shown such extraordinary dignity since the passing of his son, and really a lot of our introduction to General Kelly was reading that extraordinary speech he gave about sacrifice of these families. So what do we expect from General Kelly next?
I wish and I hope that he could convince the president, not just about his own family, but about all these families, to take this off the table, not the subject of tweets and political attacks and talk radio. Really, there's so many topics the president uses for his short-term political desires and lashing out. This just should not be one of them.
Mike Barnicle, what does General Kelly do next? I wonder how any of us, we understand he's in there serving his country. We understand it's extraordinarily difficult for him. We understand that he would much rather not be in there. But what does he do now? Does he not have to say something about this?
John Kelly reports for duty this morning. Reports to duty to serve his country this morning. John Kelly reports for duty to the White House this morning.
So even if you have a supervisor, a commander-in-chief that
I would hope, pray, and think that General Kelly would speak with the President of the United States to address exactly what Mark Halperin just indicated. Take this off the table. It's far bigger than Robert Kelly's death. It has to do with everyone who dies in the service of this country. They should not be injected into the daily discourse of politics. They should just not be injected into this.
John Meacham, I would ask you what I usually ask you about parallels, but there are no parallels for a group of advisors around a president who are staying there just to hold the line against sheer insanity, completely enveloping the entire White House, the entire administration. But it seems that's where we are, that General Kelly now even has to endure this because he fears what comes next if he leaves.
Right. I mean, The closest thing is, Secretary of Defense Jim Schlesinger issued an order that any military order coming from the Nixon White House toward the end had to be cleared by him. General Haig was playing a remarkable role in 73, 74. But I mean, and to go to Mike's point, what is the inflection point? It did take till 54 for that to happen, for McCarthy to be broken. When does a fever break? Because in a republic, we're only as good as the sum of our parts. And a significant amount of the country is enabling this president to behave this way. And why on God's earth has he twice managed to smash his Twitter finger and his social media pinball finger on Gold Star families? He did it last year, he did it this week, and I think part of the explanation must be we often attack that which we fear.
Right.
And I think whether you're talking about John McCain, whether you're talking about the Khans, whether you're talking about General Kelly's son, those people represent a level of sacrifice, a level of engagement with the lives of others, of which this man is incapable.
Well, he attacks John McCain.
And Senator McCain.
John McCain being, again, a prisoner of war who refused to come home, continued being tortured because he wasn't going to come home without his band of brothers. Well, Donald Trump was dodging the draft 4, 5 times, claiming that he had foot spurs while he was playing football, golf, tennis, and chasing women.
Right.
And here's the thing, it trickles down, right? So even in this particular instance, I do agree with Mark, we have to be very careful about how we talk about this. And I think the Democratic Congresswoman and the Democratic Councilwoman from Southern Florida also should be more careful than they're being about how they talk about that phone call.
I
and
agree.
Coming out to the press to make this a political statement. The whole environment now and the conversation becomes more toxic because everybody from both sides feels they want to get in on it and defend their corners. And that does come from the president, but those individuals also need to take responsibility for what they say.
The Congresswoman, by the way, who related the details of the phone call as she heard them, will be on our show coming up a little bit later, so we can get into some of that with her. We know how this happened. Donald Trump heard a criticism at a Rose Garden press conference. He can't let a criticism go unanswered. And so he had to say, well, Obama did it too. And he says in there, if you watch how he said, he's like, I've been told.
Oh, yeah.
So that was that he either heard directly from General Kelly or from someone else that Obama had not called General Kelly and his family about the death of his son. And now that it became a story, he said, General Kelly, you've got to let NBC News and others know that it was you. So that confirms what I said at the Rose Garden. Again, bringing General Kelly into that, I think, is appalling. And I just hope we could settle this matter and move on and leave fallen soldiers and their families out of the political conversation.
Agreed.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.